In this course we will learn Laravel from scratch by making a new e-commerce project using it. We will learn Laravel at first and then we will learn React to make the front end of our website. The best way to learn anything is to try and build something with it, so we will learn Laravel and React and we will build a full project using it. You don't need to know anything about Laravel to start this course, but you will need to know some PHP and database to understand everything. I will explain everything in details, and if you have any questions or anything you don't understand, ask me in the comments. Now let's start with what is Laravel. Let's imagine you're building a house. Laravel is like having a team of expert builders, architects, and decorators all working together to help you create your dream home. First off, Laravel is a PHP web framework. Think of it as a set of tools and blueprints that make it much easier and faster to build a website or web application. It provides you with a solid foundation, saving you time and effort by handling common tasks and providing best practices out of the box. Just like a well-designed house, Laravel has a clean and elegant architecture. It follows modern design patterns like MVC, Model View Controller, which helps you organize your code in a logical and structured way. This makes your project easier to understand, maintain, and scale as it grows. Laravel comes with a rich feature set that includes built-in tools for authentication, routing, caching, session management, and more. These features help you quickly add common functionalities to your project without reinventing the wheel, allowing you to focus on building unique and innovative features. Laravel's syntax is expressive and intuitive, making it a joy to work with. It provides elegant ways to interact with databases, handle HTTP requests, and render views, allowing you to write clean and readable code that is easy to understand and maintain. Laravel has a vibrant and active community of developers who are constantly contributing new packages, tutorials, and resources. This means you have access to a wealth of knowledge and support whenever you need help or want to learn something new. Laravel promotes modern development practices like automated testing, version control, and dependency management. It integrates seamlessly with tools like Composer, PHP-Unit, and Git, making it easy to adopt best practices and streamline your development workflow. In summary, you should use Laravel because it provides you with a powerful and elegant framework for building web applications. It saves you time and effort by offering a rich feature set, expressive syntax, and modern development workflow. Plus, it has a supportive community that is always there to help you succeed. Whether you're building a simple blog or a complex e-commerce platform, Laravel empowers you to bring your ideas to life quickly and efficiently. Now, after this introduction, let's see what we need to run Laravel. First, we need an IDE like VS Code, and next we will need to install Composer. But what is Composer? In short, Composer is like your magical assistant for managing dependencies in your PHP projects. It helps you gather the necessary packages, sets up a workspace for your project, and makes sure everything runs smoothly by handling package installations, updates, and auto-loading. And next we need to install XAMPP to manage our MySQL database. From this website we can download it. Now let's go to the Laravel documentation to make a new Laravel project. First we will copy this command and paste it in our terminal. This command will create a fresh Laravel project with all the packages that we need. After we have finished creating it, let's go to our VS Code to see the project. I know you might be overwhelmed with the project and think there is a lot of folders and files, so Let me explain everything we have. Imagine you're building a Lego castle. In Laravel, you have different folders just like different boxes for storing different kinds of Lego pieces. The app folder is like your Lego castle's main building area. You put together all the important parts of your castle here. The app folder contains all the code you write for your website or application. The public folder, this is like the front gate of your Lego castle. It's the first thing people see when they visit your castle. You put all the things that everyone needs to access directly, like images, JavaScript files, and CSS styles, here. Resources, this is where you keep all the things you need to make your castle look good, like fancy decorations and blueprints. Inside this folder, you'll find folders for views, language files, and assets like CSS and JavaScript files. Routes, think of this like the map to your castle. It tells people, or other parts of your code, how to get around. You'll find all the URLs and their corresponding code here. Database, this is like your castle's treasure room. You store all the important information here, like user accounts, posts, and comments. Config, imagine this like the rule book for building your Lego castle. It contains all the settings and configurations for your castle. Storage, this is like your castle's storage room. You keep things here that your castle needs but that you don't want everyone to see, like log files and cached data. Tests, this is like the training ground for your castle's knights. You test your code here to make sure everything works as expected before showing it to the world. Now imagine you're a magician and you have a magic spell book. Spell book, composer.json. In your magic spell book, you write down all the spells you know and the ingredients needed for each one. In Composer, you have a file called composer.json, where you list all the packages your project needs and any specific versions you want to use. Magic Workbench, vendor folder. After you gather all the ingredients for a spell, you need a place to mix them together and work your magic. Composer creates a folder called vendor in your project where it stores all the packages and their code. This is like your Magic Workbench where all the magical stuff happens. Casting spells, installing packages. When you want to cast a spell, you look up the ingredients in your spell book and gather them together. Similarly, when you want to add a package to your PHP project, you use Composer to fetch and install it. Composer reads your composer.json file, gathers all the required packages and their dependencies, and installs them for you. Learning new spells, autoloading. Sometimes you discover new spells or learn new magic tricks. Composer helps you with that too. It sets up an autoloader for your project, which is like a magical assistant that knows where to find the code for all the packages you've installed. So when you need to use a certain spell or package in your code, the autoloader helps you find it quickly. These folders help keep your Laravel project organized and make it easier for you to build and maintain your website or application. And that's it for the introduction to the course. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below, and if you want to support the channel and buy me a coffee, check the link in the description. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Hey there, future web wizards. Today, we're going to dive into something super cool called MVC architecture. But wait, what's that? Let's break it down together. Imagine you're building a super cool treehouse, and you want it to be really organized and easy to play in. That's where MVC comes in. First, let's talk about the model. This is like the blueprint or the plan for your treehouse. It knows everything about what the treehouse should look like, how many rooms it has, and where the windows go. View, this is like the window into your treehouse. It's what you and your friends see when you're playing inside. The view shows the treehouse, the furniture inside, and all the decorations. Controller, this is like the boss or the director of your treehouse. It takes all the requests from you and your friends, like open the door or turn on the lights, and makes sure everything happens smoothly. It talks to the model to get the plans and tells the view what to show. So, MVC helps us keep our treehouse, or our web app, super organized. The model knows all the important stuff about what we're building, the view shows it to us, and the controller makes sure everything works together perfectly. Isn't that neat? Now let's explore what is routing. We are inside the routes folder and inside the API file. In this course we will only use the API file and web file, the rest are for later. So first, what is routing? Imagine you're going on a big adventure with your friends, and you need a map to guide you. Well, routing is like that map for your web adventure. Routes, these are like the paths you can take on your adventure. Each route leads you to a different destination on your website. For example, one route might take you to the homepage, while another might lead you to a special page about your favorite game. URLs, just like how each path has a name or a signpost, each route has a special address called a URL. It's like the code that tells your browser where to go. Controller, now, who's going to guide us on this adventure? That's where the controller comes in. It's like the tour guide who knows all the routes and can tell us where to go. When you click on a link or type in a URL, the controller listens and decides which route to take you on. So, routing is like having a magical map that helps us navigate through the vast world of the web. With routes, URLs, and controllers, we can explore and discover amazing things together. But what is the real difference now between the web and the API files? Imagine you're traveling through a magical forest, and you encounter two different paths. Each path leads to a different destination, just like API and web routes. Web routes, these routes are like the paths you take when you want to visit different pages on a website. They lead you to places like the homepage, about page, or a cool game you want to play online. Web routes are perfect for exploring and interacting with websites. API routes, now, if you're looking to send messages or share treasures with other adventurers, you'll need a different path. API routes are like secret trails that allow different apps and services to communicate with each other. They're great for exchanging information and powering things like mobile apps or chatbots. So, while web routes help us explore and navigate websites, API routes help different apps and services talk to each other and share information. Both are essential for our web adventures. Now let's make our first route in the API file. Let's first remove the middleware, and we will explain it in later videos, and make it return a normal message like hello from the API route. Now what is those two lines? Imagine you have a big magical book that helps you find your way around the internet. In this book, there's a special page that says, when someone asks for information about a user, you can send them a message saying hello from the API route. And here's how it works. Route get user. This part is like saying, hey, magical book, if someone asks for information about a user and they're using the get method, here's what you should do next. The function, think of this as a little helper who's ready to do some magic. It's like a friendly wizard who knows how to handle messages from the internet. And the return, this is what the friendly wizard does when they receive a message. They wave their wand and send back the message hello from the API route to whoever asked for it. So, when someone asks for information about a user using the right method, our friendly wizard jumps into action and sends them a message saying hello from the API route. Cool, right? Now how can we try this code? First we need to run our server. Let's open a new terminal and write php artisan serve. This command will run our application. Now we will press on the generated link and we will get this page which has some links for the Laravel documentation and other stuff. Now let's go to the URL. Because we are in the API file, we will write first API and then the name of the route, which is user. And we will get the message that we want. Now let's try to do the same thing but from the web file. We will rewrite the same code, and then let's go and just remove the API from the URL and we will get the message from the web file. And that's it for our video for today. In the next video we will start talking about controllers. If you like this video and want to support the channel and buy me a coffee, check the link in the description. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Today, we're going to dive into the magical world of Laravel controllers. But what exactly are they? Let's break it down. Imagine you're the captain of a spaceship, and you have a control panel with lots of buttons and switches. Well, in Laravel, controllers are a bit like your control panel. What's a controller? A controller is a special code file that helps us manage what happens when someone visits different parts of our website. It's like the brains behind the operation, deciding what to do when a request comes in. The base controller. In Laravel, we have a special controller called the base controller. This controller is like the main control panel for our website. It helps us handle important tasks like making sure requests are authorized, meaning the person visiting our site is allowed to be there, and validating requests, making sure the information they're sending us is correct. What does the base controller do? Inside the base controller file, there are special functions that help us with these tasks. For example, there might be a function called authorize that checks if someone has permission to access a certain page, and another function called validate that checks if the information they're sending us is valid. Extending the base controller. When we create our own controllers for specific parts of our website, like a page for showing all the cats or a form for adopting a dog, we can extend the base controller to inherit all its special powers. This means we don't have to write the same authorization and validation code over and over again. The base controller does it for us. Now imagine you're a superhero with a superpower to understand and respond to messages from all over the world. Well, in the world of web development, controllers are a bit like those superheroes. Handling requests. When someone wants to visit a page on our website, like the homepage or a cool cat gallery, they send a message called a request. This request lands on the doorstep of our controller, which springs into action. It listens carefully to what the request says and decides what to do next. Processing the request, the controller looks at the request and thinks, they want to see the cat gallery? Alright, let's find those cute kitty pictures. It then fetches the pictures, organizes them neatly, and gets ready to show them to our visitor. Sending a response. Once the controller has everything ready, it puts together a special message called a response. This response contains all the stuff our visitor asked for, in this case, the adorable cat pictures. The controller sends this response back to the visitor's computer, and voila! The cat gallery appears on their screen. Handling different requests. But wait, there's more. Controllers can handle all sorts of requests, not just for cat galleries. Whether someone wants to see the homepage, submit a form, or adopt a dog, the controller knows just what to do. It listens, processes, and responds accordingly, making sure everyone has a great experience on our website. So, controllers in web development are like our trusty superheroes, handling requests from visitors and sending back the perfect responses. Pretty amazing, right? Now let's see how can we create our first controller. To do that we need to open a new terminal and then write the command php artisan make controller, and then we name it whatever we want, and now our new controller is created and it extends the controller to validate and authorize the requests as we explained earlier. In the next video we will make a new database and tables using migrations, and then we will use the controller to get the data from them. Don't forget to support the channel using the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description. If you have any questions, add a comment down below and I will help you with it. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Hey, future web wizards! Today, we're going to explore a magical tool called migrations in Laravel. But what are migrations? Let's uncover the mystery together. Imagine you're building a magnificent castle in a magical kingdom. But you forgot to plan the rooms and decide where each piece of furniture goes. Don't worry, that's where migrations come in. What are migrations? Migrations are like blueprints or instructions that tell our castle builders, or in this case, Laravel, how to create and change the structure of our kingdom's database. They help us organize our data and keep everything in order. The migrations file in Laravel. When we create a fresh Laravel project, we get a special migrations file. This file is like a treasure map that guides us through the process of creating and changing our database tables. What does the migrations file do? Inside the migrations file, there are special instructions written in a magical language called PHP. These instructions tell Laravel how to create different parts of our database, like tables for knights, wizards, and dragons. Adding new tables. Let's say we want to add a new table for magical potions to our kingdom's database. We can create a new migration file and write instructions for Laravel to create this table. We tell Laravel the name of the table, as well as the different types of potions we want to include. Updating existing tables. But what if we want to add a new room to our castle or change the color of the walls? Migrations can help with that too. We can create another migration file with instructions for Laravel to update our existing tables, adding new columns or changing existing ones. So, migrations in Laravel are like our trusty blueprints for building and changing our kingdom's database. They help us keep everything organized and make sure our castle or website stays strong and magical. Now let's start by creating our first migrations file. To do so, we will open a new terminal, and inside of it we'll write a command which is php artisan make migration create posts table, and now our new migration file is created. Let's see what's inside of it. There is only ID and timestamps. What are those? The ID of a post is a default primary key with the name ID, and it is auto-increment by 1 every time you make a post, so the first post we will add will have the ID of 1 and the second is 2 and so on. The timestamps are the created at and updated at columns. Those are just to tell when a post is created and updated. But what are the up and down functions? The up function is called when we run the migration. It defines the actions to create the database table. But the down function is called when we roll back, undo, the migration. It defines the actions to drop, delete, the database table. Inside of it there is a drop if exists. This line drops the posts table using the schema facades drop if exists method if it exists. This action reverses the creation of the posts table. Now let's add some columns. We will add 2 lines which are the title and body, and I will explain them. The title line creates a title column in the posts table to store the title of each post. The string method indicates that this column will store text data. The body line creates a body column in the posts table to store the content of each post. The text method indicates that this column will store longer text data. This migration file helps us create a posts table in our database to store information about each post, including its title, body, and creation/update timestamps. It's like laying out the blueprint for our castle or website before we start building. Now, how do we run our migrations? First, we need to run the XAMPP app that we installed earlier and then go to our php_myadmin. Inside of it we will create a new database. After that we will go to our environment file. In this file we have all our environment variables that we need, and we will just add a name to our database just like the database name that we just created, so we can connect to it. And after that we will go and run the command php artisan migrate. This command will migrate all the tables that we have. So now if we go to our database we will find all the tables that we have with their columns, and now we have successfully created our first database. If you have any questions, add a comment down below, and if you want to support the channel and buy me a coffee, check the link down below. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Today, we're going to unravel the mysteries of foreign keys in Laravel. Now, foreign keys might sound like something from a treasure map, but they're actually super important for linking our database tables together. Let's dive right in and explore this fascinating concept. Imagine you have 2 tables in your database, one for storing information about superheroes and another for their special abilities. Now, what if you want to connect these 2 tables so you can see which superhero has which superpower? That's where foreign keys come into play. In Laravel, we use migration files to create and modify our database tables. Let's say we already have a table for superheroes, and now we want to create a table for their superpowers. But we also want to link each superpower to the superhero who possesses it. Here's how we do it using foreign keys. See that foreign ID method? It's like planting a flag in our superpowers table. Saying, hey, this column is going to hold the ID of a superhero from the superheroes table. And the constrained method ensures that the foreign key references the ID column in the superheroes table. Now, whenever we add a new superpower, we can specify which superhero it belongs to by setting the superhero ID. This way, our database knows exactly how to connect each superpower to its rightful owner. And that's the magic of foreign keys in Laravel. With these special keys, we can create relationships between our database tables, making it easier to organize and retrieve our data. Now let's talk about migration commands. Migration execution might sound like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it's actually quite simple. It's all about bringing our database changes to life. Let's take a closer look at each command and what it does. First up, we have PHP Artisan Migrate. This command is like the conductor of our database orchestra. When we run it, Laravel reads through all our migration files and executes them, creating or modifying our database tables according to the instructions we've written. Next, we have PHP Artisan Migrate Rollback. This command is like our safety net. It allows us to undo the last batch of migrations. Let's say we made a mistake or want to backtrack a bit. No problem. We just roll back the migrations, and Laravel will reverse the changes for us. Now, what if we want to completely refresh our database, starting from scratch? That's where PHP Artisan Migrate Refresh comes in. This command rolls back all migrations and then reruns them, giving us a fresh database with all our changes applied. Finally, we have PHP Artisan Migrate Reset. This command is like the big red button. It rolls back all migrations, reverting our database to its original state before any migrations were run. Use this command with caution, as it will erase all your data. And there you have it. With these migration execution commands, we have full control over our database changes in Laravel. Whether we're creating, rolling back, refreshing, or resetting migrations, Laravel makes it easy to manage our database schema with confidence. Now let's talk about the best practices to use in our migrations. When it comes to managing our database schema, it's essential to follow some guidelines to ensure our migrations are smooth, reliable, and maintainable. Let's explore some best practices that will help us build better databases in Laravel. First and foremost, let's talk about reversible migrations. When writing migration files, always strive to make them reversible. This means that the changes made in the up method should be fully reversible in the down method. This ensures that we can roll back our migrations safely if needed, without risking data loss or corruption. Next, it's important to name your migrations descriptively. Give your migration files meaningful names that reflect the changes they're making to the database. This makes it easier to understand the purpose of each migration, especially when you revisit them in the future. Another best practice is to document your migrations effectively. Use comments within your migration files to explain the purpose of each change and any important details. This not only helps you understand your migrations later on but also makes it easier for your team members to collaborate and maintain the code base. Last but not least, use caution when modifying existing migrations. Once a migration has been run in a production environment, modifying it can cause problems, especially if the migration has already been applied to some databases. Instead of modifying existing migrations, consider creating new migrations to make the necessary changes, following the principle of immutable migrations. By following these migration best practices, you'll be well on your way to building robust and maintainable database schemas in Laravel. And that's it for the migrations for now. Next we will start using controllers to access the data in our database using Database Query Builder that is built in Laravel. If you like this video, don't forget to support the channel by buying me a coffee in the link below and liking and subscribing. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Hello Laravel developers, in this video we will combine everything we learned till now and see what we can do with it, but first there is still something we need to learn, and that is Laravel Query Builder. But what is Query Builder? Imagine you have a big box of Lego bricks, and you want to build something cool, like a spaceship. Well, in Laravel, Our database is like that big box of Lego bricks, and the query builder is like our tool to build amazing things with it. So, instead of using complicated words and sentences to talk to our database, we use the query builder to ask questions and get answers. Let me show you how it works with a simple example. Now let's try to use it. We already created our posts table and a controller called test controller, right? Let's use them. Inside the test controller we will create a new public function and let's call it index. Inside the index function let's make a new variable and call it posts. Now how can we get all the posts from our database? We will use the query builder. First we will call the db method and then we need to specify the table that we want to get the data from, so let's say posts, and then we will chain the get method to it to get all the posts that we have. Next we will just return the posts variable. But now how can we access that posts variable? Let's go to our API routes to call it. In our API route we will define a new route and it will use the get method because we are just getting the data. Next we need to define the URL of that route, so we will say posts. Next we need to make an array. The first part of it is the controller that we need to access, and that is the posts controller. And the second part is the name of the function that we want to access, and that is index. Now let's go and try that route. We will first run our server using PHP artisan serve and we will go to our URL just like we learned previously. We will write API and then posts, and now we will get an empty array, and that is because we don't have any posts yet. So let's go to our database and add a new post. Let's press insert inside the posts table, and then add a new title and body, and then we will press save to save the post. Now let's go back and refresh the page, and we will get the post that we just created, and that is how we use Query Builder to get all the posts in our database. Now what if we have some conditions and we don't want to get all the posts in our database? I have added some posts to try on them. Let's say we only want to get the posts that has the title George in them. There is a method in Query Builder called where method. This method can take 3 arguments. The first one is the column. In our case it is title. The second one is the operation, so we will write equal. In numeric columns we can get the bigger or smaller, and the last one is the word that we need, and that is George. The where method should be before the get method. The get method should always be the last method because it will get the data that we need based on the conditions that are before it. So now let's run the application to try our query. We got 2 posts. The first one is with ID 2 and the second one with ID 4. Now let's try to get only the body of the first one. Let's copy it and change the column to body and try again, and we will only get this post. Now let's make our code smaller. The second argument in the where method can be removed, because its default value is equal, so if we remove it it will be the same. Let's remove it and try again. And we will get the same result. There is various stuff that we can filter and sort using Query Builder, but those are the basics for now, and later we will try other method. If you like this video and want to support the channel, please like and subscribe, and you can check the Buy Me a Coffee link down below. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Now after we have learned how we can use controllers, migrations and routes, let's see how we can display this data that we have using Blade in Laravel. But first, what is Blade? Let's dive into the wonderful world of Blade, Laravel's powerful templating engine. Blade makes it super easy to create beautiful, dynamic web pages with PHP and HTML. Imagine you're a master chef preparing a delicious meal. In this analogy, your HTML is like the recipe, and Blade is like your trusty sous chef, helping you prepare and serve the dish just the way you want it. What are the key features of Blade? Simple syntax. Blade syntax is clean and easy to read, making it a breeze to work with. You'll see familiar HTML elements mixed with special Blade directives. Template inheritance. Blade allows you to create reusable layouts and extend them across multiple pages. This means you can define a master layout with common elements like headers and footers and then extend it in other views. Control structures. Blade provides intuitive control structures like if, else, for each, and for, allowing you to write PHP code directly in your templates without sacrificing readability. Escaping. Blade automatically escapes output to prevent XSS attacks, ensuring that any user input displayed on your pages is safe and secure. Includes and components. Blade makes it easy to include partials and components in your views, reducing duplication and keeping your code organized. Now let's see how we can pass data into our Blade files. Let's make a new variable and call it name and set it to code with George. Now how can we pass this variable into our Blade files that we will create? Passing data from a controller to a Blade view is a common task, and one of the simplest ways to do this is by using the compact function. Let me explain how it works. Imagine you're a messenger carrying a special package from the controller to the Blade view. This package contains all the data you want to display on your web page. And compact is like your magical bag that neatly packs everything up for you. Here's how it works. In the controller, let's say you have some data you want to pass to a Blade view. You can create an associative array with your data and then use the compact function to compact it into a single variable. In this example, we have two variables, name and isAdmin. We use compact to create an array with these variables and pass it to the view function along with the name of the Blade view we want to render, and let's name it test. Now let's go to our resource views, and then let's make a new file and call it test_blade.php. Now the data that we just passed with the compact method we will go into this file, but how can we display it? Here we can use the Blade syntax to do so. This is how we can access the name variable using the Blade syntax. Now let's run our application and try to use it, but first we need to go to our web routes to make our route. We will just make a new get route and name it index, and we will pass it the test controller and the name of the function which is index. Now let's use the PHP artisan serve to run our application and try it. Let's edit the URL and write index, and now we will get the name that we passed to our Blade file. Now let's try and use the if statement in Blade. We want to check if we are an admin or not, and if we are, then display a message that I am an admin, and if not, display I am not an admin message. We will use the if statement in Blade, and that is its syntax, and inside of it we will just pass the isAdmin variable and it will check if it is true or not. If true, we will display this message, else it will display I am not an admin message, and in the end we need to write end if to end the if statement. Now let's go and try it, and we will get the I am an admin message. Let's try to make the isAdmin false and see what we will get. So let's go to our controller and make it false, and then go and refresh the page, and we will get the I am not an admin message. Now let's try to display the posts that we have in our database. How can we do that? First let's use the query builder to get all the posts that we have, just like we previously learned. We will first specify the table which is posts, and then we will chain the get method to get all the posts in our table. Now we need to pass the posts to the compact method. Let's go to our Blade file to display them. Now we need to use for each method to pass through all the posts that we have. This is the syntax of the for each method, and then inside of it we will use the Blade syntax to access the post, and then we need only the post title, so we will access the title like this. Next let's try to get all the bodies of the posts that we have. We will just change the title to body, and then refresh the page, and we will get the body of the posts. That's it for today's video. If you have any questions, add a comment down below, and don't forget to support the channel by subscribing and by the Buy Me a Coffee link down below. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Hello Laravel developers, now we will learn about query parameters. Have you ever visited a website and you saw the link of the website, then there is a product name or ID, that's a query parameter. So let's learn how we can use it in Laravel. Now how do we really use it inside our application? We will use it to filter the post that we need. So for example, we will use the where method with the query builder to get the post with the ID that we passed inside our query parameter. In this video from our Laravel course, we will explore the edit, update and destroy functions and how we can do them. First we will start with the edit function is used to take us to the edit page to update our data. We use the ID parameter to identify the post that needs to be edited. So we will need to pass it the ID as a parameter in the function and in the URL. Then inside of it we will find the post that we want to edit using the query builder, and by chaining the where method to it and comparing the ID, and then the first method to get the first post with the ID that we want, then we will return to a view, let's call it edit, with the post that we need using the compact method. But first we need to use the index function to get all the posts, and then we need to choose from them the post that we want to access to edit. Let's go to the test view that we already created and updated. We already get all the posts and loop through them, but we need to edit it to add a button that takes us to the edit function, and we need to pass the ID of the post using that button. So how do we do this? We will add an A and then href, and inside of it we will say URL to the edit post, and we will add the ID to it using concatenate. This will create a link to the URL that we specified and will pass a query parameter the ID of the post we are in. Now let's make the root for the edit function. We will just make a new get root and name if edit post, and it will have the ID as a query parameter, and then the test controller and the name of the function which is edit. Now let's make the view that the edit function will take us to. Let's first make it that it will display the post and go to test it. Let's go to the index page, and we will get all the posts with the word edit under each one. Let's press it and it will take us to the edit page with the body of the post we chose displayed. That's great. Now we need to make a form to update the post instead of just showing it. We will just copy the form that we did when we were adding a new post and edit the action and add the ID of the post to it, because the update function that we will create later takes the ID of the post to find the post. And then the body and title to update it. So we will give it the ID as a query parameter. Now let's make the update function. Like we just said, it will take the ID and the data, so there is two parameters for the update function. The first one is the ID and the second is the request object. First we will search for the post using the ID and using query builder like we did in the edit function, using the where method, but instead of chaining the first method to it we will chain a new method called the update method. This method will take a key value array just like the insert method that we learned previously, and inside of it we will add a title with the value request title, and body with the value request body. And then we will return a message, for example, that says the post is updated. Now let's try our application. So first let's go to the index and press on the edit. We will get the form of to update the title and body. Then after we press submit we will get the message that we wrote. Now let's go to the index to see if it is really updated. And yes, our post is updated successfully and our application is working fine. Now we need to make our last function in today's episode, which is the destroy function. This function will delete the post that we want. It will take a query parameter which is the post ID. So let's now go and create it to see how we can delete a post using query builder. First we need to pass the ID as a parameter to the function just like we said, and then we will find the post using the where method. And then we will chain the delete method to it which deletes the post with the ID that we have, and then let's return a message that says post is deleted. Now let's go and make the root for this function. This root will take a query parameter which is the ID, then the test controller and then the name of the function which is destroy. Now let's go to the index view to add the delete button. Let's copy the edit line and just change the name of the button and the URL, and now let's go and test our application. Let's go to the index function, and we will find the delete button. Let's try and press and we will get the message post is deleted. Let's check the index URL again to make sure the post is deleted, and yes, the post is now deleted. And now we have finished all the CRUD operations in Laravel using Query Builder. If you are enjoying the course till now and want to support the channel and buy me a coffee, check the link down below. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Let's talk about Eloquent ORM in a way that's easy to understand. Imagine you have a bunch of toy cars scattered around your room. Each toy car has its own color, size, and some other cool features. Now, let's say you want to organize these toy cars neatly on a shelf so you can easily find them when you want to play. Eloquent ORM is like a magic organizer for your toy cars, but instead of cars, it organizes data in your computer. Here's how it works. Toy car model. In your room, you might have different types of toy cars, race cars, trucks, or even some fancy convertibles. Each type of toy car has its own characteristics. In Eloquent, a model represents a type of data, just like a type of toy car. You create a model for each type of data you want to organize. Playing with toy cars. With Eloquent, you can easily play with your toy cars' data, without worrying about where they're stored or how to find them. You can tell Eloquent to give you all the red cars, or all the cars with a specific size, and it will fetch them from the database for you. Magic Box. Eloquent also has some magic tricks up its sleeve. It can help you create new toy cars, update existing ones, or even make them disappear, delete, when you're done playing with them. And it does all this with just a few simple commands. So, Eloquent ORM is like a magic organizer that helps you keep your data neat and tidy, just like you organize your toy cars in your room. It makes working with data in your computer fun and easy, just like playing with your favorite toys. Now let's make a new model and see what we will have in the model file. To do so, we will use the command php artisan make model and we will name if post. And now we will have a post model file. Let's go inside of it and start writing our code. First we will need to specify to which table this model should use, so we will make a new protected variable called table and we will give it the value of posts. Now we need to define our fields. In Laravel, the field property in a model is an array that specifies which attributes, or columns, of the associated database table are allowed to be mass assigned. Mass assignment refers to the process of passing an array of data to a model's constructor or create method to set multiple attributes at once. But what is mass assignment? When you create or update a model instance, you often want to set multiple attributes in one go. For example, when creating a new post, you might want to set both the title and body attributes at the same time. In summary, the field property in Eloquent models helps you control which attributes can be mass assigned, reducing the risk of mass assignment vulnerabilities in your application. It's an essential security feature that ensures your application behaves as expected when dealing with user input. Now, after we have made the field and added inside of it the title and body, how can we really use the model? Let's go to our controller and see how we can use it. Inside our index function we will use the post model. We start by importing the post model at the top of the file using useApp models post. This allows us to access the post model within the controller. Fetch all posts. Inside the index function, we use the all method of the post model to fetch all the posts from the posts table in the database. This method returns a collection of post objects, each representing a row in the table. And now we will get all the posts from our posts table just like we did using Query Builder, but in a simpler and more elegant way. By following these steps, we can effectively retrieve all posts from the database using the post model and pass them to a view for rendering. This approach keeps our controller code clean and organized, separating concerns and promoting maintainability in our Laravel application. Now let's see how we can transform all of our function to use the post model instead of the Query Builder. In the store function we create a new instance of the post model. We then manually assign the title and body attributes of the post instance using the request data. After assigning the attributes, we call the save method on the post instance to persist the new post to the database. Now let's go to the edit function. The edit function is just finding the post and then returning it, so instead of the where method and then first, we will use the post model with the find method. The find method takes the ID of the post that we want and it will return the post when it finds it, or null if not found. Next, let's see the update function. We will find the post just like we did earlier. If the post exists, we update its title and body attributes with the data from the request. We then call the save method to persist the changes to the database. Next, we will have the destroy function. In the destroy function we will find the post that we want to delete, and then we can chain the delete method to the find method to delete the post that we just found. We have forgot to edit the show function. It will be just like the edit function. We will find the post with the ID that we have, and then return it. And that's how we can transform our application from Query Builder to Eloquent ORM. But what is the difference between those two and when do we use each one? Eloquent provides a more expressive syntax, resembling natural language, which can make code easier to read and understand. Eloquent operates at a higher level of abstraction, dealing with objects and models, while Query Builder deals with raw SQL queries. Eloquent can lead to faster development due to its higher-level abstractions and built-in features, while Query Builder offers more control but may require writing more code. Eloquent may have a steeper learning curve for beginners due to its object-oriented approach and ORM concepts, while Query Builder is closer to traditional SQL syntax. In terms of performance, both Query Builder and Eloquent can be optimized for efficient database queries, but Eloquent may introduce some overhead due to its additional abstractions. In summary, both Query Builder and Eloquent have their strengths and are suitable for different scenarios. Query Builder offers more control and flexibility, while Eloquent provides higher-level abstractions and productivity benefits. The choice between them depends on the specific requirements and preferences of the project. That's it for today's video. In the next video we will start talking about relationships between tables using Eloquent. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. In this video we will talk about relationships in Laravel. First we will start by one-to-one relationship. In Laravel, one-to-one relationships refer to a type of relationship between two database tables where each record in one table is associated with exactly one record in another table, and vice versa. Let's explain this with an example. Consider two database tables, users and profiles. Each user has exactly one profile, and each profile belongs to exactly one user. This is a typical scenario for a one-to-one relationship. Here's how you can define and use a one-to-one relationship in Laravel using Eloquent models. First, we need to create migrations for both tables. The user table is already there, we just need to create a profile table. Inside of it we will add a new foreign ID which is user ID, and it will be constrained to the user table. Next we need to make the models for the profile and the user. There is already a user model but we need to edit it. In the user model, we define a profile method using the has1 method to establish the one-to-one relationship with the profile model. This method indicates that every user has one profile. Next let's make the profile model. We will use the PHP artisan make model profile command, and then inside of it we will add fiables and table of course. And then we define a user method using the belongs to method to define the inverse of the one-to-one relationship. Now, we can use the defined relationship methods to access related data. Let's first migrate to add our tables into the database, and now after we have added them, let's add a new user to test it. And after adding the new user we need to add a profile for that user. let's go to the profile table and add the new profile with the user ID 1. And next, after we have added a profile and a user related to that profile, let's go to our controllers to see how we can use the relationships. Let's go to our index function, and inside of it we will find the user with the ID so we can retrieve it, and next we access the profile relationship method defined in the user model to retrieve the associated profile. The $profile variable now contains the profile related to the user with ID 1. And that's how we can access the profile of the user that we have. Let's run our application to test it. We will just return profile so we can see it, and next we will use the PHP artisan serve command to run the application. Now let's go to the index page, and we will get the profile of that user. Now let's try and make the same thing but in reverse. So we will find the profile and then we will get the user of that profile, and then we will return the user. Let's go and test it. Let's refresh the index page, and we will get the user that we want. Now that is the simple part of relationships. How can we make it more complex? We will first explain something called lazy loading and eager loading. What are eager and lazy loading? Eager loading is a technique where you retrieve the related models along with the primary model in a single database query. It preloads the related models up front, reducing the number of database queries needed to fetch related data. Eager loading is more efficient when you know in advance that you'll need the related data, especially when dealing with multiple related models. Lazy loading is a technique where related models are retrieved from the database only when you access the relationship property on the primary model. It defers the loading of related models until they are actually needed, which can save resources if you don't always require the related data. Lazy loading is the default behavior in Eloquent.it, may result in additional database queries being executed when accessing relationships, especially if you access multiple related models. Eager loading is generally more efficient as it retrieves related models in advance with a single query, whereas lazy loading retrieves related models on demand, potentially resulting in additional queries. Eager loading reduces the number of database queries by combining related data retrieval into a single query, while lazy loading may lead to multiple queries being executed when accessing relationships separately. Eager loading is recommended and you know in advance that you'll need related data to avoid n+1 query issues, while lazy loading is suitable when you don't always need the related data or when you want to defer its retrieval. In summary, eager loading and lazy loading offer different trade-offs in terms of efficiency and usage. Choosing between them depends on your specific requirements, performance considerations, and how you plan to use the related data in your application. Now, how do we use them in our relationship? We have already used lazy loading when we accessed the profile of a user previously, but how do we use eager loading? With eager loading, we can preload related models in advance using the with method. This can be more efficient when you know you'll need the related data. So for example, if we want to get the user with their profile, we will first call the user model and then the with method. Inside of it we need to specify the name of the method so it is profile, and then we will chain the find method and we will pass it 1 so we can get the user with the ID 1 and their profile. Let's go and test what we will get using this method. Let's just return the user, and then go to the index page and refresh it. And we will get the user and with it the profile that he has. Let's try to only access the profile. We will just type user and then profile and return it. Let's refresh the index page to see what we will get, and we go the profile of that user. And now let's dive into explaining one-to-many relationships in Laravel using the user and post models as an example. We already have a post model and table, but we need to add a user ID to the table, and then after adding the foreign ID user ID to the table we need to add it in the fields in the post model. Now we need to define a new method in the post model for the user post relationship. We will name the method user and inside of it we will return a belongs to relationship just like we did with the profile model. And now we will go to the user model to make the post method. The post method will return a has many relationship, because the relationship between them is a one-to-many relationship, because every user can have many posts, and every post belongs to one user. Now let's go to the test controller to test our relationships and see how we can use them. How can we first retrieve the user's posts? We will use the with method to do so. We will define a new variable, and then we will use eager loading to retrieve a user with their associated posts. Just like we did with the profile and user, but we will get a lot of posts, so how can we go through them? To do so we will use a for each loop and access the user posts as post, and then inside of it we can access each post title, for example. Next, let's see how we can create a new post using our relationship. We will first find the user, and then we will make a new post just like we did previously in the store function, but then we will use the user that we just found, and then we will chain the posts method to it, and after that we will chain the save method to it, and inside of it we will pass it the post that we just created, and now the post will be created and associated with the user that we want. Additional notes: with the hasMany method in the user model, you can access a user's posts as a collection. Conversely, with the belongs to method in the post model, you can access the user who authored a post. This relationship allows you to easily perform operations like retrieving a user's posts, creating new posts for a user, updating posts, deleting posts, etc., using Eloquent's powerful ORM features. In summary, one-to-many relationships in Laravel provide a convenient way to establish connections between records in different database tables, allowing you to work with related data efficiently in your application. And that's it for the one-to-many relationship in Laravel. There is also a lot of different relationships in Laravel like many-to-many and polymorphic, but those are a little bit advanced, so we will not talk about them in our course, but maybe later in a more advanced course we will explain them in details. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Today we have a practical lesson of eloquent filtering of the data with hasMany relationship and with operators like has and where has. In our eloquent model, the user has many posts and has many comments. And the posts has many comments. First operator has in the most simple form. This is how we can get the users that has posts. We can also combine the has statements so we can get the users that has posts where those posts have comments. You can also filter by how many posts the user has, so let's try and only get the users that have more than 5 posts. We can also use or has so we can get the users that has posts or has comments using the or has method. The opposite of has is doesn't have, and we can use it to get the users that doesn't have any posts. But what if we want to go deeper now and get only the posts that have comments in them? We can use the has posts.comments so we can get only posts that have comments. And we can even filter it out just like we filtered the posts, and now we get only the users that their posts has more than 5 comments. Now let's dig deep into a more complex method, that is the where has method. It is used when you have additional conditions on something. So we use where has relationship and then subquery on something. In our example we will use it to return the users that has only active posts, user where has posts where active equals 1. We can also combine where has by returning only the users that have active posts and active comments by chaining another where has method into our first where has and writing a condition inside it. And it's not only where has, but we can use it with or where has, where we will get the users that have active posts or the users that have active comments. If you want to dig deeper into relationships in Laravel, you can check the Laravel documentation that I will link down in the description. And also, I have a question for you of topic. Do you have any advice for me how to shoot these videos or any general advice so I can improve? Just add a comment below and help me improve my videos, and you can also check my channel for more Laravel content. In this video we will talk about authentication. The two biggest ways of authentication and the most used are session-based and token-based authentication, but what are those and when do we use each one? Session-based authentication and token-based authentication are two common approaches used to authenticate users in web applications. Let's compare and explain each approach. First, session-based authentication, how it works. In session-based authentication, when a user logs in, the server creates a session for that user and stores it on the server side. The server then sends a session ID, usually stored in a cookie, back to the client. For subsequent requests, the client sends the session ID with each request, allowing the server to identify the user's session and authenticate the user. Sessions are typically stored in server memory, but can also be stored in a database or external cache. Now, what about the pros and cons of the session-based authentication? First, what are the pros of the session-based authentication? Simplicity. Session-based authentication is straightforward to implement, especially with server-side frameworks like Laravel. Built-in security. Sessions are managed by the server, reducing the risk of client-side attacks like XSS, cross-site scripting. What about the cons? Scalability. Storing sessions on the server can lead to scalability issues, especially with large numbers of users. Server overhead. Maintaining session data on the server consumes server resources, which can impact performance. Stateless nature. Sessions rely on server-side state, making it difficult to scale horizontally or deploy across multiple servers. Now, after we have talked and explained everything we need about session-based authentication, let's talk about the token-based authentication and how it works. In token-based authentication, when a user logs in, the server generates a token, e.g., JWT, JSON Web Token, and sends it back to the client. The client stores the token locally, usually in local storage or a cookie, and sends it with each subsequent request in the authorization header. The server validates the token and extracts user information from it to authenticate the user. Tokens are typically signed and encrypted, containing information such as user ID, expiration time, and any additional claims. Now, what are the pros of token-based authentication? Scalability. Since tokens are stateless and self-contained, they can be easily distributed across multiple servers or used in microservices architectures. Performance. Token-based authentication reduces server-side overhead as authentication is handled on the client side. Flexibility. Tokens can be used for authentication and authorization, and can include custom claims to convey additional information. Now, what about the cons? Security concerns. Tokens must be securely stored to prevent theft or tampering. Storing tokens in local storage exposes them to XSS attacks. Token management. Tokens need to be managed, refreshed, and revoked if necessary. This can add complexity to the authentication process. Now let's talk about the real comparison between the two. Security. Session-based authentication relies on server-side storage and is generally more secure against certain types of attacks. Token-based authentication requires careful handling of tokens to prevent security vulnerabilities. Scalability. Token-based authentication is more scalable, making it suitable for distributed systems or microservices architectures. Session-based authentication may encounter scalability issues with large numbers of users. Performance. Token-based authentication tends to be more performant as it offloads authentication logic to the client side. Session-based authentication may incur additional server-side overhead. Implementation complexity. Session-based authentication is simpler to implement, especially with server-side frameworks. Token-based authentication may require more complexity due to token management and security considerations. In summary, Both session-based and token-based authentication have their strengths and weaknesses, and the choice between them depends on factors such as security requirements, scalability needs, and the specific use case of the application. Now, after all this theoretical talk, in the next video we will start and make a session-based authentication and test it. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. In this video we will talk about the session-based auth. In session-based authentication, when a user logs in, the server creates a session for that user and stores it on the server side. The server then sends a session ID, usually stored in a cookie, back to the client. For subsequent requests, the client sends the session ID with each request, allowing the server to identify the user's session and authenticate the user. Sessions are typically stored in server memory, but can also be stored in a database or external cache. Now let's start with the steps to make a session-based authentication. First we need to make our auth controller. Let's use the PHP artisan make controller to make a new controller and name it auth controller. Inside this controller we will write the logic for the register, login and logout function. Now let's go into our controller and start with the register function. Inside of it we will make a new instance of the user model and assign it the email and password. But for the password we will use the bcrypt helper, and inside of it we will put the request password. Using this helper we will hash the password for more security in our Laravel application. But we forgot to add the name, so we will go back and add the name equals request name, and that's it for our register function. Easy and simple. Next we will make our login function. It will take the request as a parameter and then inside of it we will make our login logic. I will paste this code and explain it so you can understand it better. In the first line we will make a new variable and call it credentials, and it will contain the email and password from the request. Next we are checking if the auth that the request came from is from the web file, and then attempting to log in. The attempt method is a method in Laravel to make the login session and to log the user in. If the email and password are correct we just need to pass it the credentials, and then if it is true we will return a message you are logged in, and if not you are not logged in, and that's it for the login function. Now I know you didn't understand the guard method really well and it needs more explanation, so let's go to the config folder and the auth file to explain it. In Laravel, authentication guards define how users are authenticated for each request. When working with session-based authentication, you typically configure the web guard to handle user authentication. Here's a detailed explanation of configuring the authentication guard for session-based authentication. Laravel supports multiple authentication guards, each responsible for authenticating users in different contexts. The web guard is the default guard used for web-based authentication, including session-based authentication. Other guards, such as API, are used for token-based authentication, typically for APIs. The guards array in the configuration file defines the authentication guards available in your application. The web guard is typically configured to use the session driver for authentication. The driver option specifies the authentication driver to be used by the guard. In the case of session-based authentication, the driver is set to session. The provider option specifies the authentication provider that should be used to retrieve user information. The default provider is typically set to users, which corresponds to the users table in the database. Authentication process. When a user attempts to log in, Laravel's authentication system validates the user's credentials. If the credentials are valid, Laravel creates a session for the user and stores their authentication status. By configuring the authentication guard for session-based authentication in Laravel, you ensure that user authentication is handled securely and consistently throughout your application. And that's it for the auth guard. Now we need to test our application, but first we need to register our routes in the web file. Let's go to the web file and make a new route with the method post for login, and a route with the method post for register also, and then we need to make two get routes to take us to the login form and the register form. After making the routes, let's go to the auth controller and make two functions. One to return a view for the login form and the second to return a view for the register form. Now let's go and make two new views, the first one with the name login form, and the second is the register form. Inside of them we will just make a new form, one that takes us to the register route after submitting the data and the second to the login route. Now let's copy the form from the create view that we made previously and just edit the fields that we need and the action to login and to register. And now after we have finished setting up our views, let's run our application to test them. Let's write PHP artisan serve, and then go to the pages that we need. First we will register a new user, so we will go to the register form, but we have an error, wrong method. Let's go to the web file and we forgot to make the method of the form root get, so let's change it and then retry. And now we got the form that we want. Let's make a new user and press submit, and the user is registered and everything is working fine. Now let's go to the login form, and try to log in using the user that we just created, and let's press submit. And we got the message user is logged in and everything is working just like we want. That's it for today's video about session-based auth. In the next video we will learn how to make a token-based auth using different packages and ways. If you like this video and want to support the channel, check the Buy Me a Coffee link down below. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Welcome back to our journey through Laravel. Today, we're diving deep into the world of middleware, a powerful concept that helps us protect and enhance our Laravel applications. So, what exactly is middleware? Middleware acts as a bridge between the incoming HTTP requests and our application's logic. It provides a way to filter and modify requests before they reach our application's routes or controllers. Think of middleware as a gatekeeper, allowing only authorized requests to pass through. Laravel offers several types of middleware out of the box, each serving a specific purpose. Global middleware, applied to every HTTP request that enters your application. Root middleware, assigned to specific routes or groups of routes, allowing for more granular control. Controller middleware, applied directly to controller methods to handle request validation or authentication. Now let's go to the middleware folder and to the kernel file. Here we can find our middlewares and register new middlewares. Let's explore what we have. The first array is middlewares that are global for all the requests, and as a beginner we don't need to touch those. Next there is middlewares for all the web requests and for the API requests. For example, the throttle middleware in the API protect our Laravel application from DOS attacks because it allows only 60 requests per minute from the same person. Then there is the middleware aliases. Those are middlewares that we use when needed and we will explore them. There is a middleware called auth. Let's go and see what is inside of it. Let's go to the authenticate file and explain it. The method signature indicates that it is a protected method named redirectTo that accepts a request object as its argument. It returns a nullable string, which means it can return either a string, a URL, or null. Inside the method, there is a conditional statement that checks if the incoming request expects a JSON response. The expects JSON method on the request object is a convenient way to determine if the client expects a JSON response based on the request's accept header. If the request expects JSON returns true, the method returns null. This means that no redirection should occur, and the request will continue processing as expected. If the request does not expect JSON, i.e., it expects HTML or another non-JSON response, the method returns the route named login. This means that the user should be redirected to the login page. In summary, this method determines where to redirect the user after an unsuccessful authentication attempt based on the type of response expected by the client. If the client expects JSON, no redirection occurs. Otherwise, the user is redirected to the login page. This behavior ensures proper handling of authentication failures in both web and API contexts. Next, let's go to the guest middleware and see it. The file for it is the redirect if authenticated file. Let's explore what's inside of it. The first line initializes the guards variable. This variable holds the authentication guards that should be checked during the authentication process. If guards is empty, it defaults to null, which means it checks the default guard. Otherwise, it uses the provided guards. The for each loop iterates over each guard specified in the guards array. For each guard, it checks if the user is authenticated using auth check. This method checks if the user is logged in using the specified guard. If the user is authenticated for any of the guards, it redirects the user to the root service provider home route. The root service provider home route typically points to the home page of the application, which is the default landing page after successful authentication. If none of the guards indicate that the user is authenticated, the middleware calls the next closure to continue processing the request. This ensures that if the user is not authenticated for any guard, the request continues through the middleware stack, allowing other middleware to handle it or reach the root handler. In summary, this code inside the auth middleware checks if the user is authenticated using one of the specified guards. If the user is authenticated, it redirects them to the home page. If not, it allows the request to continue to the next middleware in the stack. This mechanism helps enforce authentication for routes that require users to be logged in. In the next video we will try the token-based authentication and then we will see how we can use the middleware auth to protect our routes. If you like this video and want to support the channel, check the Buy Me a Coffee link down below. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.
Hey everyone, today we are going to learn how to secure a Laravel API using JWT, and we will use Timon third-party JWT auth library. But first, what is JWT? JSON Web Token is an open standard, RFC 7519, and it represents a compact and self-contained method for securely transmitting information between parties as a JSON object. It authenticates the incoming request and provides an additional security layer to REST API, which is best for security purposes. First, let's add require our package, and I will link the website in the description below. And then after it is installed, let's go to our config app.php and add our providers, and then we need to publish it in our application. After that, we will generate our JWT secret, which is unique for every application. And now we will have to update our user model so it implements JWT. Then we need to go to our auth.php to configure our guards, so we will add the API guard and make its driver as JWT. So now when a user authenticates from an API, it will use JWT, and the provider is users. That means it will check the user model for the authentication. Now let's make our auth controller. So first of all, in the login, we are validating the fields that we want, and then throw an error if it fails or attempt to authenticate the user if it succeeds. If the user credentials are right, we will make a new JWT token and authenticate the user. If not, we will return an error message to the user. Our register function is doing the same things with the validation. And if it's true, we will create a new user and hash the password and store it in the database. The logout destroys the token, making it invalid and make the user log out from the application. The refresh create a new token for the authenticated user. User profile returns the user's info and the create new token returns the info of the token and the info of the authenticated user. Then we need to register our functions in the routes using middleware of API and a prefix of auth. And now let's test our application and see how it works using Postman. But first, we need to make a new database. So let's set the name of our database, and then we go to our PHP, my admin, and create a new database. And then we run the migration command, which is php artisan migrate. And now we have our database ready for testing. Let's run our application using php artisan serve and go to Postman to test it. First, we will put our local host URL, and then our middleware and prefix, and then our fields, so we can create a new user since our database is empty. Okay, let's remove the password confirmation from the password validation. We don't need it. And then we run it again, and user is successfully registered. Now let's try to log in, and for login, we need email and password, and now our access token is generated, and we are logged in successfully. Now we take our access token and put inside the authorization in Postman, and we set the type to bearer. And now we are logged in our application using this token. Thank you for watching to the end. If you like this type of content, check my channel for more Laravel content and hit the subscribe button.
Today, we're going to unravel the mystery behind gates and policies in Laravel. These are powerful tools that help us control access to different parts of our application. Let's dive in. What are gates and policies? Gates and policies are authorization mechanisms provided by Laravel that allow us to define fine-grained access control logic in our applications. Gates are simple callbacks that determine if a user is authorized to perform a specific action, while policies are classes that encapsulate authorization logic for a particular model. Let's first talk about gates. Gates are simple authorization callbacks that return true or false to indicate whether a user is authorized to perform a certain action. They provide a flexible way to control access to parts of our application based on custom logic. For example, we might want to check if a user is authorized to delete a post before allowing them to do so. Now, how do we define our gates? In Laravel, gates are typically defined within the auth service provider class. This class is located in the app providers directory of your Laravel application. Let's break down how gates are defined. Within the boot method of the auth service provider class, you can define your gates using the gateDefine method. Here, we've defined a gate named deletePost with a callback function that determines whether a user is authorized to delete a post. This gate checks if the ID of the authenticated user matches the user ID of the post being deleted. You can also register other policies and gates within the boot method as needed for your application. Now, how do we use it inside our controllers? Let's go to our destroy function and see how we can do it. We will use the gateAllows method, and inside of it we will pass the name of the gate, which is deletePost. And then the post. If the user is authorized to delete it, we will go inside of it and delete the post. And that's how we can use gates. There is a lot of packages that are ready to use for permissions like the Spotify permissions package, but that's how we can use it if we don't want to use any package. Next we will talk about policies. What are policies? Policies are classes that encapsulate authorization logic for a particular model in our application. They provide a structured and organized way to define access control rules specific to each model. For instance, we might have a post policy to determine who can view, create, update, or delete posts. To create a policy for a model, we use the artisan make policy command in Laravel. Let's create a policy for the post model. This command generates a post policy class with methods for different authorization actions, such as view, create, update, and delete. Inside the generated policy class, we define methods that return true or false based on whether the user is authorized to perform a specific action. Here, the delete method checks if the user is authorized to delete the post by comparing their ID with the user ID of the post. Now, how do we use it inside our controller? Once policies are defined, we can use them in our controllers to authorize user actions. For example, in a controller method for deleting a post here, we use the authorize method to authorize the delete action on the post model. If the user is not authorized, Laravel will automatically throw an authorization exception. Policies provide a structured approach to managing authorization logic for specific models in Laravel applications. By defining policies and using them in our controllers, we ensure that access control rules are organized, maintainable, and easy to manage. Gates and policies provide a flexible and organized way to manage authorization logic in Laravel applications. Whether it's defining simple callbacks with gates or encapsulating complex authorization rules with policies, these tools empower us to build secure and robust applications. Thanks for joining me on this exploration of gates and policies in Laravel. I hope you now feel confident in using these powerful tools to control access to your applications. Keep coding, keep learning, and keep building amazing things. If you want to support the channel, check the Buy Me a Coffee link down below, and see you in the next video. Hey everyone, welcome back to our Laravel tutorial series. Today, we're going to talk about form validation and how to ensure that the data entered by users is valid before saving it to our database. Let's dive in. Form validation is essential for maintaining the integrity and security of our application's data. It ensures that users provide valid input according to specified rules before processing or storing the data. In Laravel, we can easily perform form validation using built-in features and helpers. Now let's say we want to add a new post from the view that we previously created, but we forgot to add a title or a body. What will happen? We will get an error like this, but if our application is live, we don't want errors like this to appear to the user, right? So that is why we will use form validation. Let's go to our controller and see how we can use it. We use the validate method on the request object to validate the incoming data. We specify the validation rules for the title and body fields using a simple array syntax. The required rule ensures that the field is not empty. The max 255 rule limits the maximum length of the field to 255 characters. We can add more rules based on our application's requirements, such as unique for ensuring uniqueness or email for validating email addresses. If validation passes, we create a new post instance and assign the validated title and body data to the corresponding properties. We then save the new post to the database. Now what will happen if the validation fails? If validation fails, Laravel automatically redirects the user back to the previous page with the validation errors. We can display these errors in our Blade template using the error directive. I will just paste the code for it in our Blade file and then go and test it. Now let's leave something empty and then press submit, then we will be redirected back to the form and we will get the error message that it is required, and that is how we can protect our forms using validation. Form validation is a crucial aspect of web development, ensuring data integrity and security. With Laravel's built-in validation features, we can easily define and enforce validation rules for our application's forms. And there you have it, folks. Form validation in Laravel made easy. Remember to always validate user input to maintain the integrity of your data. But what we have a lot of columns, the controller will be huge and not that easy to maintain because it will be big, so let's try and separate the validation from our controller into a different place. Separating validation logic from controllers is a recommended practice in Laravel to keep your code clean, organized, and maintainable. Laravel provides a convenient way to achieve this separation using form request validation. Here's how you can separate validation from the controller. Laravel allows you to create dedicated form request classes to handle validation for specific actions. These classes extend the Illuminate Foundation HTTP form request class. You can generate a new form request class using the makeRequestArtisan command. This command will generate a new form request class named StorePostRequest in the app HTTP requests directory. Open the generated StorePostRequest class and define the validation rules for your request in the rules method. You can also define an authorize method in your form request class to authorize the user's access to the action. This method should return true or false based on whether the user is authorized to perform the action. Now, you can inject your form request class into the controller method where you want to apply the validation. Replace the request type hint in your controller method with your form request class. By separating validation into dedicated form request classes, you keep your controller clean and focused on handling business logic. Additionally, it improves code reusability and allows you to centralize and manage validation rules more effectively. Plus, it adheres to the single responsibility principle, making your codebase more maintainable. Thank you for watching the video till the end. If you like it and want to support the channel and buy me a coffee, check the link down below. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Welcome to another in-depth Laravel tutorial on our channel. In this extensive guide, we're going to dive deep into Laravel seeders and factories, two essential tools for populating your database with test data. Seeders are a fundamental part of Laravel's database testing and development toolkit. They are essentially scripts that allow you to populate your database tables with initial data. Let's explore how to create and use seeders. To create a seeder in Laravel, you can use the artisan command. PHP artisan make seeder and then specify the class name, let's say user table seeder. Within the seeder file, you can define the data you want to insert into your database. Let's use the DB table users and then chain the insert method to it. After adding our user data, we will use db seed artisan command and specify the class that we want to use, which is user table seeder. Seeders are perfect for populating your database with initial data, like default user accounts or basic reference data. Now, let's explore factories. Factories are all about generating fake data for your database. They're particularly useful for testing and development. To create a factory, you can use the artisan command. PHP artisan make factory and let's call it user factory. within the factory file, you define a blueprint for generating fake data. First the name, and we will use faker, which is a call to a faker method. Faker is a PHP library that generates fake data, such as names, addresses, and more, for testing purposes. In this line, we are setting the name attribute of a database record to a randomly generated name. In the email we will use unique, that ensures that each generated email is unique, preventing duplicates in your test data. And finally we will add our password. Now let's go to our routes to call the factory that we just created. We will do this by first calling the user model and then use the factory method, and we need to specify how many users we want to add, let's say 20. And now when we call our route, 20 new users will be inserted into our database. Factories are great for creating a wide range of test data, helping you simulate real-world scenarios or populate your database for testing. Let's talk about the differences between seeders and factories. While both are tools for managing data, they serve different purposes. Seeders are ideal for populating your database with consistent and specific data. They are best for initial setup and reference data. Factories, on the other hand, are perfect for generating a wide range of fake data. They're great for testing, development, and scenarios where you need diverse and randomized data. In summary, seeders are for static, known data, and factories are for dynamic, randomized data. Choosing between seeders and factories depends on your use case. Let's explore scenarios for each. Use seeders when you need consistent and specific data, like default user accounts or fixed reference data. Use factories and you require diverse and randomized data for testing and development, such as generating sample user profiles or product information. By understanding when to use each tool, you can make your database interactions in Laravel more efficient. In this in-depth guide, we've explored Laravel seeders and factories, two invaluable tools for managing data in your application. Whether you need to populate your database with initial data or generate diverse, randomized test data, Laravel has you covered. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more Laravel insights. If you have questions or topics you'd like us to cover, leave them in the comments below. Happy coding! And now we are at the end of our course for teaching the basics of Laravel. To learn anything and understand it very well, you need to make a project or two on it. In the next video we will make a booking system project with an admin dashboard to try everything we have learned and learn more new stuff. And then when you finish it you can check other projects that I did on the channel, and also you can try to make your own small project to try your Laravel skills. I hope you enjoyed the course, and if you did and want to support the channel, check the Buy Me a Coffee link down below. And if you have any questions, add a comment or DM me on my Instagram Code with George or LinkedIn George Derderian. Thank you for watching and see you in the next course. Welcome to a brand new course on our channel. This course is for the people that already knows the basics of Laravel and want to test their knowledge and try making a real-world application. I have made this application for a local business in our area and I decided to make it into a course. So what we will learn in the course: first we will make a small admin dashboard with admin login, and inside of it we will have 4 pages. First is the user list page, which has the users that we have in our application and we can delete them when we need. The second is the businesses list table. Inside of it we will have the businesses that we have and we can edit and delete them as we need. Then we will have 2 pages for adding a business and adding a new user, and finally there is the logout button to log out from the admin dashboard. Now let's go to the code and see our controllers. This is the API file which has the APIs that we need. And we will explain every single one inside our course and test them all using Postman. For the API's login we have used Sanctum, as you will see later into the course. It is a built-in package in Laravel 10, and I will make a quick tour into the controllers to make you see what we will write and do inside of them, and I will upload the whole project on GitHub if you don't want to write with me and just watch and understand everything. and those are our front-end files for the admin dashboard, and that's it for our application. I hope you enjoy the course, and if you have any question, add a comment or send me an email if you need, and don't forget to like and subscribe to see more courses and Laravel content. And thank you for watching. Hello everyone, we'll be exploring the authentication process using Laravel Sanctum. Laravel Sanctum is a package designed to make API authentication a breeze in Laravel applications. Laravel Sanctum is built on top of Laravel's authentication system and simplifies the implementation of token-based authentication. It's particularly useful when building applications with a separate front-end and back-end, where you need to authenticate requests from a SPA, single-page application, or a mobile app. Now this is a fresh Laravel 10 project and it comes with the Sanctum package already installed inside of it. So first we need to go our user model and check if it has the API token to generate access token, and yes, it is already included in our user model. Next we need to make a new authentication controller using the PHP artisan make controller, and let's name it auth controller. Inside of it we need to first make a register function to add new users to our database. I will just paste the code for the registration and explain it. First we are validating the request that we are getting and making sure the email is unique. Then if the validator fails it will return an error message with the problem, and then we will create a new user and add it to our database and then return the new user info. Then we will make our login function which first validates the request and return an error message if it fails, and then we will try to log in the user. If his credentials are wrong we will return an error message, else we will get the user and create a new token for him and return it as a JSON response. And now after we have made our authentication controller we need to go to our API and register our routes. So let's first add our login route and then we will add our register route. Now let's make our build our database using PHP artisan migrate fresh command, and then we will run our application. After that let's go to Postman to test our authentication. Let's first use the register function to create a new user. Let's add name, email and a password. The password needs confirmation, but let's just remove it from our validator, we don't need it, and let's try again. And now our new user is added to our database. Now let's to log in to get our access token. We only need email and password, and now we got our access token and we are logged in successfully. Now let's try to access the user route that already comes with the Laravel application so we can test our middleware. We will do it first without authenticating so we can see what we will get. We got root login not defined, that is because if a user is not authenticated it will redirect him into the login route, but our login route doesn't have a name so it didn't find it. Now let's change the name of the redirected route and let's call it auth. I have created a simple route to return a simple message and I have named it auth, but let's first make it return a response JSON with the message, and then let's go and try it. And yes, we got the message that we just added. Now let's try to log in and get the access token. After that we will add the token as a bearer token and then try to access the user route. and yes, we are logged in successfully and we are inside the user root. If you like this video and want more Laravel content, please like and subscribe. Now let's start by building our database tables. First we will make a new table using the PHP artisan make migration command and name it business table. Now let's go inside of it and add our columns. First let's add the name and let's make its type string. Then we need to add the user ID for the business and let's make it foreign ID. Then chain constraint to make sure it is from another table, and then on delete cascade, so now if the user is deleted the business will also be deleted. Now we need to make our models for the tables that we just created. We will use the PHP artisan to make model command, so let's make a model for every table we have, first the business model and let's call it business, then the review model, then the booking model, and finally the service model. Now we will start creating our controllers. Our first controller will be the business controller for the admin, so we will put in a folder called admin just to organize everything. We will use the PHP artisan make controller command to create it. Now inside our business controller we will first make the index function. The index function will get all the businesses that we have and return them as a response. We will use the business model and then the paginate method to make them paginated for better performance and more organized, and then we will return them as a JSON response. Now let's create our service controller to make the businesses add their services and inspect them. First we will create the controller using the PHP artisan make controller command, and we will put it inside the business folder to be more organized with our controller. Inside of the controller we will start by making the index function to retrieve the services that the logged-in business has. First we will get the business ID of the logged-in business. We will use the auth ID helper to get the ID of the authenticated user, and then we will retrieve the first business. Then we will get the services of that business by using the where method, and then get the services of the business that we just retrieved, and then we will paginate the results. Now we need to create the reviews controller. First let's use the PHP artisan make controller command to do so, and then let's go to the reviews controller. Inside of it we will first create the index function to get all the reviews. We will use the reviews model, then the paginate method, and then we will return a response JSON with the reviews. Now let's make our admin dashboard. Inside the admin dashboard we will be able to see all the users and edit and delete them. Also we can add a new user if we want and assign it a role, and we will need to see all the business and add and delete the business that we need. First let's make the admin login. I will add a new blade file called login. I will just paste the front-end code because I don't want to waste your time with some styling stuff. I will upload the project on GitHub for you to get the front-end code and the CSS and JavaScript files that we will include later. I have also created a new controller called admin login controller to handle the admin login. It will have 3 functions. The first will just redirect you to the login form, the second will handle the login logic, and the third will handle the logout logic. The login will just take the credentials of the user and attempt to login, and will check if it is an admin or not. The logout will just flush the session and then redirect to the login form. Now let's go and register our roots in the API file. We will first give a name to the index functions of the business and user roots because we will need them later. Then we will add the roots of the admin login controller,